Yes, this, of course, is Gene Wilder as Young Frankenstein. It was the first film that we saw in class. I wanted to combine the opportunity to engage you in the German Expressionist conventions and characteristics of the films of the 1930s, which, without actually having to see a film from the 1930s. So we saw, instead of seeing Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, we saw Young Frankenstein. It was brilliantly made. Mel Brooks even went so far as to get the laboratory from a man who had it in a garage in Phoenix. And here you see Madeline Kahn as Bride of Frankenstein, Gene Wilder as Dr. Frankenstein, Frau Brucke, and of course the great Marty Feldman as Igor. A fun movie, but beautifully made, and a tremendous and wonderful tribute and homage to the films, the horror movies of the 1930s, maintaining the black and white composition, format, shadows, everything about those movies in the 30s he put into his Young Frankenstein, making it one of the best and funniest films ever made. Next, went into 2018 with a Bohemian Rhapsody, a biopic, beautifully made, honored with more Academy Award nominations than any other film that year, and it won 4 of them, all the editing awards, and all of the editing awards. And of course, Rami Malek won the Academy Award for his brilliant portrayal of Freddie Mercury. As you can see, he embodied him, he became him, and they replicated rock, concerts and Wembley Stadium and Live Aid, and they just did a magnificent job with this film. I showed it to you because it was a We Can Do It film, no matter what the critics say. They hated the music of Queen and the song Bohemian Rhapsody, but they stuck to their guns, and it remains to this day a beloved and played over and over again film, and song. And then the film had very mixed reviews, but the people loved it, saw it over and over again, and it got the awards it deserved. This is a very fabulous poster, has Queen reflected on his sunglasses, and Rami Malek was just absolutely wonderful. And these 3 guys were like they were clones of the actual musicians, Brian May, Deacon Jones, and Roger Taylor. They're absolutely perfect. I hope you liked it. And it encompassed the three E's, which I started out at the beginning of class to say, the three things that a film should do, a movie should do. It should be, number 1, entertaining. Number 2, it should enlighten you about something. And number 3, it should create empathy. And I think with Young Frankenstein was definitely entertaining, and I'm sure it enlightened you. But this one really covered all 3. It was highly entertaining. It enlightened you about music and the struggles of musicians, and then of course it created empathy for the late great Freddie Mercury. So I hope you enjoyed it. The third film we saw was The Shape of Water, which won the Academy Award for the best film of the year of 2017. It was Guillermo del Toro. It was a fantasy, beautiful fantasy, but nothing in Guillermo del Toro's film history is just anything. He brings into it history and politics, and this film was no exception. As I said, someone said, "Oh, it's a story. Oh, that's a story about a fish." And I said, "No, it's not a story about a fish. It's a story about the 1950s, our struggles with competing with Russia, our fear of communism, and then all of the other issues which were swept under a very thick rug, like racism, sexism, ageism, xenophobia, and homophobia." And you see examples of all of that here. The racism, the sexism, the ageism, the xenophobia, and of course, homophobia as well. So a brilliant picture, beautifully made. I hope you enjoyed it, and it's definitely worthy of several viewings, and it's just beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful love story, strange but beautiful. Get Out, also 2017, or maybe the year before, I don't know, but at any rate, Get Out was well, it's 2017 as well. At any rate, this is Jordan Peele's first film. He's known as a comedian and a very successful comedian, but this film he wrote and he directed it, and he did a brilliant job. He won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. And there's so much else going on in Get Out. It's on Swank if you need to see it again. And here's some information about it. But if you still have your handout about regarding Get Out, there are some important issues on in there that are touched on, and moving along to our beloved Thelma and Louise. Thelma and Louise is a classic film. It's not a chick flick. It's not a chick flick. It's a brilliantly realized movie about two women who go on a they're going to go away for the weekend. Just going to go away for the weekend, get away from everything. And as you can see, things go awry. One small event changes their lives forever. And here is that event going on. And they take off, and they have to take off. And the reversal of roles between Thelma and Louise is astonishing to watch. The landscape is brilliant. It's another actor in this movie. It introduces us to the wonderful Brad Pitt. Oh, there's Daryl, the goofy husband. And here are our girls, who are heroes to this day. Entertaining, enlightening, and creating empathy. All three. A wonderful, wonderful movie. Next, in an introductory film class, I try to show a little bit of everything, and this was my showing you a film that was made with stop frame animation, where they create all these little critters, characters, movable objects, movable, whether they're people or animals or whatever. They move them frame at a time and come up with these absolutely astonishing films that turn into classics. And this one is considered one of the best. Um, um, from a beautiful story, well done, beautifully realized. You can see Wes Anderson here, the size of the characters that he's created, and manipulating them and moving them many times for 1 second of film. So you add that to 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. A 90-minute frame at a time movie is a labor intensive, probably 2 or 3 year project. And so this is just completely does all of the above. If you have the ability to see it again, it will be well worth your while. Okay, Beasts of the Southern Wild. I show Beasts of the Southern Wild because it's an independent film, and an independent film is a film that is made without studio money. You raise your own money however you can, and that's what Ben Zeitlin did. He raised $2 million. He hired friends, family, and non-actors, and he created this magical and extraordinary film. It's filled with metaphors, allegories, and it's a response to the damage, to the devastation of Hurricane Katrina to this region of our country. Here's an auroch who a little hush puppy is confronting. I hope you have your, I don't think I had handouts. I have handouts for this, but I don't know if you got them. But you can see a lot of information about this, what the aurochs stand for. We wrote about this. You wrote about this. Here they are on Miss Bathsheba's thigh. Look like old cave paintings, like Lascaux cave paintings. And here's her father, who did a wonderful job, non-actor. He owned the bakery across the street. And here's little Hush Puppy, who's listening to the heartbeat of the world. She's a magnificent character, just a wonderful character, and a beautifully realized film. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Okay, and there's our Beasts of the Southern Wild. Made for $2 million, has so far grossed $20 million, maybe more by now. Oh, The Intouchables. The Intouchables is a class favorite. This is a French film, and it's the beginning of our foreign film series, which I didn't quite get to realize due to the closure of the classrooms. I had many movies I wanted you to see, but this was one of them, and this is a true story of Cluzet, Philippe, right here, Philippe, and Driss. He is paralyzed from the neck down, and Driss is his caregiver. And Driss turns him on to a whole other world, and he turns Driss onto a whole other world. It's a mutually advantageous, beautiful relationship. It's a true story, and they are friends to this day. This is on Swank if you'd like to see it again, and it's a lovely movie to see, and you'll see so much more on an additional viewing. Schindler's List, also on Swank, just a brilliant film. I think it's Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, which is saying a lot because he's made some very, very amazing movies, but this is the movie he absolutely had to make. This is a movie about his heritage, his people, and their treatment by Hitler and the Nazis. Now, he did it in black and white to go with the times that this was occurring in the 40s, the 30s and 40s, where Jews were rounded up and sent on trains. Here's an image of the hands coming out of the trains to death camps where they where they worked until they died, or they just killed them anyway. And here's a replica of one of the death camps. Here's a little boy hiding in a sewer, and the only color in this entire movie is this little girl's coat. So it makes it all that much more profound. Ben Kingsley, I believe, won an Academy Award, Best Supporting Actor for his role. I'm not sure. He wins so many Academy Awards, I lose track. But beautiful, beautiful film. Over 3 hours long, but it doesn't even feel like it at all. So there's Schindler's List. The next two just get a breath of fresh air after Schindler's List was the 2018 documentary on Fred Rogers, Won't You Be My Neighbor, from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It's a wonderful, wonderful documentary. And in a film class, an intro to film class, we will see a documentary, a independent movie, a couple of foreign films. You want a little bit of everything. And this was the documentary I chose, and it's just beautiful. He was a beautiful man. Here's a little blind boy feeling his face, which is how they see. Here's his little puppet, that Daniel Tiger, who many children can relate to, in his little train. And very quaint sets, no CGI, just heartfelt stories and introductions to children like Yo-Yo Ma, the great cellist, and just somebody who can watch every day and let you know that you're important and that he loves you. And I wish Mr. Rogers were here today. We could all use his help. Then we go from sweet Mr. Rogers to Pan's Labyrinth. I believe this is Guillermo del Toro's masterpiece. The Devil's Backbone preceded this, but I find Pan's Labyrinth far more visually engaging. This is the story of a little girl whose the backdrop is the Spanish Civil War, the fascist army fighting the rebels, which they're doing to this day, by the way. It's not fascist anymore because Franco died, but the Capitan is a dead ringer for fascism. He's a very strong, powerful man. He can even sew up his own face, which was a pretty creepy scene right there. But here's Ophelia on the way to one of her adventures. Here's the faun, the Pan's Labyrinth, the pawn. Here's the good doctor who is helping everybody, but he was shot for his efforts. And here's the captain eating at a huge table. And here's the pale man eating at a huge table. The pale man is considered one of the most frightening characters in film. This film is on Swank. You can see it again, and you can't see this movie too much either. It's so layered. There's so much going on. Then, of course, we had to have a Miyazaki, seeing as and I really appreciate this student who uh, uh, loaned us her link to this The Wind Rises. Miyazaki, a master of animation, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service. It goes on and on. He's just extraordinary. But he follows in the footsteps and stands on the shoulders of Akira Kurosawa, the great Japanese filmmaker. And I, of course, couldn't show you the Kurosawa films in class because we weren't there. But if you do have an opportunity to see any Kurosawa, they're on Netflix. You can see Throne of Blood, which is Kurosawa's Macbeth, or you can see Ron, which is Kurosawa's King Lear. Kurosawa loved Shakespeare. So at any rate, if you get a chance to see some Kurosawa, please do. Every now and then it's on Turner Classic. Look for Kurosawa. So we loved this Wind Rises, wonderful movie, and we'll talk about that on your final. And then, of course, the last film, which was going to be my last film um, in class. I bought it specially for this class, but then we didn't have class. But luckily, a student was generous and kind enough to loan his link to the movie so you could see it properly. Cast of incredible characters, wonderful characters, sweet little Jojo Rabbit here, sweet little 10-year-old. Here's Hitler, goofy, stupid, you know, as Taika Waititi said, when it comes to horrible despots like Franco and Hitler, you really can't fight them, but you can make fun of them. And that's a great way to take them down, is just making them look like buffoons. And as you can see, he certainly does. He had no problem with that. But beautiful acting, beautiful, beautiful characters. Here's Captain K, beautiful Scarlett Johansson as the mother. Just this was a wonderful movie. It won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, but it should have won so much more. It was really quite astonishing. And I think as time goes by, this will out. People will see this over and over again, and not the films that won the Academy Award. So with that, I just wanted to get these to you. And let's see, and over and out. I won't see you Monday, but your final is Monday. So thank you for a wonderful semester. I love you all. Good night.